Okay, so this is part 3. Let's go through it, inshallah.
Them as they are. And in my humble opinion, the Salafi movement has many positives, and we should embrace these positives. And of those positives was the purity of its creed, the primacy of the sacred text, the encouragement of critical thinking, the avoidance of superstitious, if you like, rituals and over-exaltation of saints, an emphasis on hadith authentication, an emphasis overall on knowledge. All of these are great aspects of Salafism, but Salafism also has some negatives as well.
Okay, so a lot of people, they attack him because he left Salafism, because he noticed how sectarian it became, such hatred for the believers. So these people, this group, if you ever come across a Salafi, most of the time, in most cases, there are exceptional cases. I've come across some good Salafis, mashallah, who are tolerant, who are understanding, who didn't do takfir of you, didn't do tabdi' on you, call you bid'ah or kafir. I've come across people like that. However, I've also come across a majority of people who have been very harsh in their approach, have been very they've been inclined to Khawarij ideology. They've been inclined towards that ideology. I've come across all sorts of problems. So there are problems within this group where they have harsh tendencies. The respect of a believer, another Muslim believer, they don't really respect their rights and whatnot. But anyways, so he left them with that group, so that's why they're mainly attacking him because of this reason. So let's go through it. So now here you mentioned the benefits of it. Now he's going to mention in Salafism there's certain negatives too. So he's mentioned the positive and negatives. So this is what you call a balanced mind, who mentions, okay, they are positives. Okay, X, Y, Z is a positive. Now it's a negative. Then he also mentions a negative where they can improve on.
And that is, in my humble opinion, one of the greatest negatives is that it has taken issues of theology, abstract issues of theology, and made them the ultimate goal over and above actual religiosity. So it is more important for many Salafis to affirm Allah's attributes than it is to worship Allah through those attributes. It is the issue of a part.
So yeah, so that's a key thing. You see them always when it comes to Aqidah, they'll have these debates. But when it comes to being religious, being in ibadah, they'll have deficiencies. Because if they don't have deficiencies, they won't have this arrogance within them in the way they speak to people. They won't have this, self pride kind of arrogance where they think it's only their sect that's going to go paradise. Anyway, let's continue.
Part of Iman in Allah is to understand Allah's names and Allah's attributes. It is essential to also talk about, well, how do we know anything about...
So this is not a refutation. They're saying this is a refutation of his previous clip. But instead, he is talking about something else. He's talking about, okay, you need to know the attributes to understand Allah, etc. Yes, these are two different things.
Allah. Our only source of information regarding Allah is how Allah has described Himself in the Quran and in the Sunnah. Is to turn back to the way of the early scholars, the early generation. They were the only group who really and truly understood the names of Allah properly, as these narrations show you. And then after them came many groups who deviated from the path. So if we wish to attain success, we need to turn back to them and understand the way they understood it.
Yeah, so there he was just giving more details. You need to follow the Salaf. He also agrees with that as well. So it's neither here nor there. These guys putting some random video together, trying to make an argument, but there's no argument there. So that's why I said these are easy points to respond to, because there are hardly any points, So let's continue.
And Salafis need to realize, let me be very blunt here, that if Umar ibn al-Khattab was amongst us right now, and they gave him a quiz of Aqidah, the fact of the matter is, that test that you put in front of him, he would fail it, right?
Okay, so this is a key thing. They might keep on bringing this up and try confusing people. So here what he was saying was, he wasn't saying that basic stuff like, obviously we know the hadith of Jibreel, which the angel came and the angel talked about this. The angel asked about what's Iman, and the Prophet responded about the 6 pillars, etc. Umar radiallahu anhu is the one who is narrating this hadith. So this hadith is clear that that knows the Islamic creed within Islam. Of course, Ummah knows. Like, yani, he's one of the four leaders, Khalifa. Like the Prophet mentioned him in many narrations about following him, etc. So that's clear. In regards to Aqidah, he knows Aqidah. What he was saying in this clip was an exam of today. So if you give an exam of today, which you ask him what's the three categories of Aqidah or something like this, you ask him, okay, what's the Rububiyyah? If you ask these kind of terms, if you use these kind of terms, he might not be able to answer it. So that's what he's basically saying. He was like, he's gonna fail it based on the fact that how you guys have categorized it. So there's different terms like taqween and these kind of things. If you ask him, if you give him like a test of today with these terminologies and these new developed concepts, he will fail it. So that's what he meant. He wasn't talking about like the core tenets of Islam, or what we to be a believer, what you have to believe. Like, you have to believe in Allah, the last day, etc. So these basic things, of course, Umar radiallahu anhu will know that. But when it comes to these developed ideas, or these developed things that later have became in the book forms and they're being taught to people, that's what he'll fail, because he never learned it in such a manner, in such a way. So he's criticizing the Salafis, saying that, look, you guys are learning in this manner. However, the creed of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba is very simple. You believe in the Quran. Okay, as you see the Quran, you believe in the Quran. As you see the Hadith, you believe in the Hadith. And it's very simple. It wasn't something like formatted in a book form and whatnot. Let's continue.
So this hadith is extremely powerful about the status of the Sahaba, and it's an explicit hadith. Do not speak ill of my companion.
So now here they think that he's speaking ill. Just because you acknowledge a Sahabi will not know something of the. I'll give you an example. If I say now, Umar radiallahu anhu will most likely or will not know about the airplanes, just because he hasn't got the knowledge of the future, he might not know about the airplanes. Is that insulting him? Of course, he's not insulting him. Likewise, if he doesn't know a syllabus of an Islamic, institute, what they're doing currently, that's not insulting. That just shows that he's not all knowledgeable. Anyhow, so yeah, for some reason they think that's insulting.
And this shows us, therefore, as Sunni Muslims, we keep our mouths pure. Our tongues are absolutely clean when it comes to speaking about the Sahaba. We either say good or we remain quiet. But no Muslim will ever say anything, or no true Muslim will say anything about the companions. Wallahi, Umar ibn Khattab is nearly a billion. I can't even put a number better than the end.
So do you hear that? So if he's insulting them, he wouldn't say he's million and billion times better than us. That's not insulting. He's making it clear that, look, their creed, the way Salafis and some other groups, the way they become sectarian in this manner, the sectarian is not needed. You can just keep it simple and believe in the way the Sahaba believed, in the way they have believed, and how they like they pass the beliefs on. Like, it's very simple. You can just look at the Quran, look at the Hadith, and believe how it is written. You don't have to become sectarian and say, I follow this creed and they follow that creed, and we're enemies and stuff like this. So that's what his main point is.
We know this, and yet, anybody were to quiz him a first-year exam from Darul Uloom, from Medina, from Azhar, from any institution, he would fail in every single subject. There were people in the children of Israel who would be spoken to, but they were not prophets. There would be some type of indirect wahi, but they were not anbiya. They were indirectly inspired by Allah. That the Prophet is saying, if there is anybody who is inspired by Allah indirectly, then that person is Umar ibn Khattab. Okay, and that's definitely a blessing that does not need any explanation. The hadith, the famous hadith, all of you know, the best of all generations is my generation. Then those that come after them, then those that come after them. And we explained that this bestness, this fadila, has to be in all fields, not just in one. Of them is the hadith of a woman coming to the Prophet ﷺ, and she said, I have this issue that I want to do with you. I want to get you from you a fatwa or a religious verdict. So the Prophet said, come back at such and such a time. She said, what if you are not present? Who should I go to? He said, go to Abu Bakr. She asked, what if he's not present? He said, go to Umar. But we can all agree that Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhu and all of the other scholars of the past, they have reached heights that we have never reached. Wahhabist, or it's also called Salafist parties, Wahhabist, which really demonstrates that they are not an insignificant minority. Salafism is a type of Protestantism.
So he's using the word Wahhabist because his audience are, from what I remember, is the audience were from non-Muslims. There's some non-Muslims in there, so they'll be able to relate to that term. They'll be able to know, okay, this refers to the Salafis. So yeah, so that's why he's using that term, and let's continue.
And that is why Salafism does not like icons, which is why certain movements such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS like to destroy religious icons that are figurines, as they try to destroy the statues and whatnot, okay? Most Wahhabis are very apolitical, very pacifist. Most Wahhabis, you can consider them to be somewhat like maybe the Amish or the ultra-Orthodox Jews. The theology of Wahhabism is that they are labeling this group of people with a label. And they are telling, as if the other Muslims, oh, you must disassociate yourself from this group of people. And they have chosen this label, they call it Wahhabi, or they call it Salafi. And they say, this is what the Wahhabis teach, this is what the Salafis teach. Now, if you look at what they are teaching and what they are saying, much of it is something which is general to Islam. Okay, some other brother says something about homosexuality, he doesn't like homosexuality. Is homosexuality a sin only to this one group in Islam that they have invented, Wahhabis? No Muslim calls himself a Wahhabi. Amongst ourselves, we can discuss and fine-tune in detail, no problem. But to take one group and label it with an invented label, this label of Wahhabi is an invented label, this label of Wahhabi is an invented label, and then say, oh, this is all coming from this group. What do you think they're trying to do? They're trying to divide and conquer. They're trying to cut and break the ummah and say, okay, this is one group called the Wahhabis. What happens? Those who don't like this label, don't call themselves this label, nobody does. But I'm saying the groups that don't even like, for example, the theology of this group, they will say, okay, this anger is directed toward these Wahhabis. That's fine, let them do that. I'm not going to support my fellow Muslims in Islam.
Okay, so there he developed his belief, and now he realizes, okay, these guys are sectarian and they're Hizbi. So I don't think that needs more information. Like I've already explained in the part one, that a person developing their their beliefs or ideas based on knowledge, there's no issue with that. And mashallah, I agree with him on this point of Salafism, how they, how they have like. Oops. Okay, let's proceed. The next one is going to be about Christmas, and again they isolated two different clips about two different stuff. Let's continue. Let's watch it and then I'll respond.
So she goes on to this website and she says the scholar sitting 5,000 miles away in a land very far from Finland has said that it is sinful for a convert to go to her family or his family, whatever, on the day of Christmas because it is a pagan festival.
Okay, so this is key, right? So this is a river, and she got fatwa from someone who's not living in the area. He's not doesn't know what's going on. So when it comes to keeping ties in Islam, that's very, very important. Keeping family ties. There's a hadith about you're not gonna get a paradise if you don't keep family ties. So keeping family ties is very, very important. Now this person is a revert, and they still have their family with them, and they're not Muslims or whatnot. Now they're asking, can we go to the family that day? Now of course they can go to that day as long as they're not gonna do anything impermissible. So now Yasir Qadhi is talking about that. Now there's a different subject of celebrating this. One is the exception cases for reverts. So the fatwa is going to be very specific for them, where you can go because it's your family, you can stay, you can be with them, but don't do anything haram. But then there's another aspect of it, which is, as a Muslim, can you just decide to just go to a party just because you feel like it? That's a different subject, and what they're trying to conflate these two together. I told you, these guys are manipulative kind of people. Now watch for yourself.
Those fatwa that you're referencing in those websites, with the respect that they deserve, they don't understand what exactly a family gathering at Christmas is. They have never interacted with a Christian civilization. They are living in a very different world than the ones we inhabit, and so their understanding is skewed. We all know that a family gathering.
Oh yeah, there's another important point. Fatwa should be taken from those people who are, especially when it goes to do with like your surroundings, and something that's very specific as Christmas or a holiday that's practiced in the West. Fatwa should be taken from those who are living in that country, not from a country from, let's say, most of it, like this, like Saudi Arabia, for example, IslamQ&A.info. The IslamQ&A.info is actually a Saudi Arabian kind of run with that scholars from there, Salih Al Munajjid. So you got to be careful, like you're not taking a fatwa from there if it's something specific to your environment. Like let's say you want to know about something that's in your environment about, let's a loan, taking a loan out or something like this, or something got to do with university or college. You got to ask the scholars in your surrounding, because they'll be able to understand these kind of things better than the foreign scholars. So that's a key thing to keep in mind. Don't ask people from a different country, because they might be thinking about their colleges. They might be thinking about, they might have a principle that in their country that this can never happen. Whereas in Western countries you have relaxation in within the like the Islamic principles. You can have a relaxation in certain areas.
Gathering together on the day of Christmas or the night of Christmas Eve, and they come together, is more of a family event. Generally speaking, there's zero religion. Your participation in the family festival does not constitute worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is no hint of servitude to other than Allah in a generic festival of this nature. Somebody 5,000 miles away says, oh, it is haram for you to go. No, it is not haram for you to go. Not at all. You are not celebrating Christmas. Because many of our young children, they ask us, why don't we celebrate Christmas? Why can't we have a Christmas tree? Why can't we do this and we do that? And to this we respond, we as Muslims, we do not celebrate the holy days of other religions, because by celebrating those holy days, it's as if we are celebrating the concept behind the holy day. And for many Christians, the 25th of December is the celebration of the birth of a man they call the Son of God. And we don't believe God has a son. To say that Allah has a child cannot come from the intellect. It cannot come from knowledge. It cannot come from a book. Where does it come from? They literally invent it from their mouths. كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. They are saying that which is not true. It is a lie. And to lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is of the greatest crimes. Anyone who says Allah has a child or children or daughters or sons, this is not true. What a monstrosity comes from their mouths. We despise falsehood. We despise lies. It is ingrained in us, and this feeling comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He put it in us. So if we were to celebrate that day, it's as if we too are saying, oh, we believe that God has a son. And we don't believe that God has a son. So we say to them that we are not going to celebrate on this day.
So do you guys see the clear manipulation of what's just taking place? This guy's clearly, the person who made this video is clearly got two separate points about Christmas and put them together. One is very specific about Riva, and another is just generally about celebrating Christmas, which is not allowed. So I'll finish the rest off in the next one, inshallah.